phone buzzed against the wooden desk once, then again, then a third time, rattling beside an empty coffee mug and a pile of unopened mail. I stared at the screen from across the room without moving. Her name lit up my apartment in pale blue. Maya. For a second, I honestly thought I was imagining it. She hadn't called me in almost a year. Not a text, not a meme, not one of those random midnight voice notes she used to send when she couldn't sleep. Nothing. Just silence. And now suddenly, on a rainy Thursday night at 11:48 p.m., my phone was vibrating with her name like the last 11 months had never happened. I didn't answer. The ringtone echoed through the apartment while I stood frozen near the kitchen counter, holding a glass of water I had forgotten to drink. It felt strange seeing her name again. Strange how a single person could once feel stitched into every part of your life and then slowly become someone you almost had to train yourself not to think about. The phone stopped. I exhaled, and it started ringing again. Maya. I laughed quietly under my breath, but there wasn't anything funny about it. I think it was just disbelief. After everything, after all the years of me always being the one reaching out first, always checking in, always showing up, it felt almost unreal to see her trying. Too late, though. I sat down on the couch and watched the screen glow in the dark apartment while memories crawled back into my head one by one, uninvited. I'd known Maya since we were 4 years old. Our mothers met at a playground. That's the story everyone always told. Apparently, I was trying to climb backward up a slide and she walked over and told me I was doing it wrong. And that was our beginning. By elementary school, everyone already grouped us together automatically, Maya and Noah, like one word instead of two separate people. We grew up side by side, same schools, same bus stops, same birthday parties, same summers running through sprinklers and scraping our knees on concrete. I knew the sound of her laugh before I knew multiplication tables. She knew every version of me that had ever existed. Or at least I thought she did. The phone stopped ringing again. This time she didn't call back immediately. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, staring at the black screen. A year ago, I would have answered before the first ring ended. Actually, no. A year ago, I probably would have called first. That was always the pattern, wasn't it? I used to tell myself she was just bad at reaching out, bad at texting, bad at emotional stuff. I made excuses for her for years because when you love someone platonically for that long, your brain learns how to protect the image you have of them. You become loyal to the idea of them. And Maya was easy to be loyal to. She was funny in a way that made rooms lighter. She could turn grocery shopping into an adventure and make dumb moments feel important. She remembered tiny details about movies, sang terribly on purpose during car rides, and somehow convinced everyone around her that life was exciting, even when it wasn't. Being around her felt easy, until it didn't. The hardest part about realizing someone only takes from you is that it never happens all at once. There's no dramatic betrayal, no screaming fight, no single moment where the world suddenly shifts. It's slower than that. It's realizing you're always the one carrying the friendship, while the other person just enjoys the ride. I remember when it first really hit me. I was 19. My grandfather had just died. Maya knew how much he meant to me. She'd met him dozens of times growing up. He used to call her the loud one because she never stopped talking during family dinners. The day he died, I texted her. No response. At first I understood. People get busy, then hours passed, then a day, then 2. She finally replied 3 days later with, "Sorry I disappeared, things have been crazy." No, "How are you?" No, "I'm here." Nothing. And the stupid thing is, I forgave her instantly. Because 2 weeks later, she called me crying about some guy she'd been seeing for a month, and I stayed on the phone until 3 a.m. talking her through it. That was us. Or at least that was me. always available, always understanding. I knew the details of every heartbreak she ever had, every insecurity, every family problem, every dream she was scared to say out loud. Meanwhile, I started noticing how little she actually knew about me lately. Not the real me, anyway. She knew the version of me that listened, the version that gave, the version that showed up. But whenever life got the heavy on my side, she vanished like smoke. The phone lit up again. Maya calling. I picked it up this time, not to answer, just to hold it in my hand while it rang. I stared at the contact photo, a blurry picture I took of her years ago at the beach. Wind in her hair, laughing at something outside the frame. I almost answered just to ask why now? Why after all this time? But deep down, I think I already knew the answer. Because something in her life probably happened. Something hard, something lonely, something uncomfortable, and suddenly she remembered I existed. That realization used to destroy me. Now it just made me tired. I declined the call softly and set the phone face down beside me. The apartment fell silent except for rain tapping against the windows. I thought about the summer we turned 16. That was probably the happiest period of our friendship. We spent almost every day together. We'd walk around town until 2 a.m. talking about everything and nothing. We made stupid bucket lists, broke into our old elementary school playground one night just to sit on the swings again. There was one night we drove to the edge of the city because she wanted to watch a meteor shower. We laid on the hood of my car wrapped in blankets while she talked endlessly about the future. I think we'll always know each other, she said. I remember laughing. That's a weird sentence. No, seriously, she said. Even when we're old, I think you're one of those people that stay. One of those people that stay. Funny. Because I did stay. For years longer than I should have. I stayed through every ignored text, every canceled plan, every conversation somehow becoming about her again. Every moment I felt myself shrinking into the role of emotional support instead of an actual person. And maybe that was my fault too. I taught her that I would always be there no matter how little she gave back. People get comfortable when you never let them lose you. I learned that too late. There wasn't a specific moment I decided to leave. I just got tired. Tired in a deep way sleep can't fix. I started noticing how drained I felt after talking to her. How every conversation revolved around her problems, her stories, her life. How she could go weeks without asking me a genuine question. One day I stopped texting first. That was it. No dramatic goodbye, no confrontation. I just stepped back quietly. At first I thought she'd notice immediately. She didn't. Days passed, then weeks, then months. It was almost fascinating in a painful kind of way, watching how long someone can go without reaching for you when you stop carrying the connection alone. I kept waiting for the message. Hey, are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Why did you disappear? Nothing came. That hurt more than I expected. Not because I missed her, I did, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing the friendship could disappear entirely and she could continue her life normally unless she needed something. That's when I understood the truth. I mattered to her, but mostly for what I provided. Comfort, attention, stability, validation. Not me. The actual me. The phone buzzed again. This time it was a voicemail notification. I stared at it for a long moment before pressing play. Her voice filled the apartment instantly, familiar enough to make my chest ache. Hey, I know this is random. She laughed awkwardly. I don't know. I was thinking about you tonight. It's been a while. A pause. I hope you're okay. Call me back if you want. That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just casual, light. Like we were old classmates instead of people who spent 18 years attached at the hip. I replayed it twice. Not because I wanted to, because I was trying to feel something, anger, relief, sadness, anything. But mostly I just felt distant, like I was listening to a ghost from another life. I got up and walked toward the window, the city outside blurred beneath rain and streetlights. Somewhere out there, Maya was probably sitting in her room waiting for me to call back, fully expecting I eventually would because I always had before. That version of me felt so far away now. I thought about the night I finally understood. I had to let her go. I was 21 and going through the worst anxiety period of my life. I barely slept for weeks. Couldn't eat properly. Everything felt heavy. I remember calling her one night because I genuinely needed someone. She answered, sounding distracted. I asked if she could talk, and she said, "Can I call you later? I'm out right now." Later never came. But the next morning, she texted me asking if I could help her edit a caption for Instagram, and something inside me finally cracked. Not dramatically, quietly, like a rope snapping after being pulled too tight for too long. I remember staring at that message thinking, if I disappeared tomorrow, would she even really miss me? Or would she just miss having someone constantly there for her? That thought haunted me for months. The truth is, losing her felt a little like grieving someone who was still alive. Because the good memories were real, that's what made it complicated. She wasn't evil. She wasn't malicious. She just loved selfishly, and some people do. They take and take and take without realizing relationships are supposed to move both ways. And if you love them enough, you start accepting crumbs as if they're enough to survive on. I used to think loyalty meant never leaving. Now I think loyalty should include yourself, too. The phone stayed silent now. I looked down at it, resting in my hand. A year ago, I would have seen this call as hope. A chance to fix things, to reconnect. But sitting there, the dim light of my apartment, I realized something strange. I didn't want to fix it anymore. Not because I hated her, I didn't. Part of me probably always would love Maya in some quiet, permanent way. But love alone doesn't sustain a friendship. Effort does, care does, presence does, and eventually you reach a point where history alone can't justify staying exhausted forever. I wondered if she would ever understand why I left. Maybe not. Maybe in her mind we simply drifted apart naturally. Maybe she never noticed the 1,000 tiny ways I begged silently to be cared for too. The human heart is strange like that. Sometimes we scream in ways nobody hears. I walked back to the couch and sat down again, turning the phone over in my hands. One call. That's all it took to reopen 18 years worth of memories. The playgrounds, the late night drives, the inside jokes, the laughter, and also the loneliness I felt sitting beside someone who only noticed me fully when they needed something from me. I used to think closure came from conversations. Now I think some endings happen quietly inside you long before anyone else notices. The screen dinged. Her voicemail notification still sat there unopened now, though I'd already listened to it. For a moment, I imagined calling back. Maybe she'd sound happy. Maybe we'd laugh awkwardly. Maybe she'd tell me what's been happening in her life. Maybe things would feel normal for 10 minutes before slipping back into the exact same imbalance that destroyed us in the first place. Some chapters only repeat themselves when you reopen them. And some people are better carried as memories than realities. I looked at her name one last time before locking the phone. The apartment went dark again. Quiet. Still. I leaned back into the couch and listened to the rain against the windows while somewhere far away my phone remained unanswered. And for the first time since walking away from her, I realized I didn't feel guilty anymore. Just sad. Sad for the kids we used to be. Sad for the friendship that could have been beautiful if effort had existed on both sides. Sad that sometimes people can love your presence without ever truly loving you carefully. But mostly I understood something I hadn't before. Her asking about me now wasn't meaningful anymore. It was late. Too late. Some doors don't slam shut dramatically. They close slowly, quietly, after years of being left open for someone who never really noticed them. And eventually, even the person waiting by the door gets tired, so I let the silence stay. I let the call remain unanswered. And somewhere between the rain, the darkness, and the fading glow of her name disappearing from my screen, I finally accepted that some relationships are only meant to survive as memories. Not because they weren't real, but because they stopped feeling alive a long time ago.